All right, welcome back to the channel. It's your boy Fanon, and in this video, we're going to talk about what Terence Crawford's team said yesterday about the Errol Spence Jr. fight, and also give you guys one more dose of I told you so. Let's talk about that in this video. All right, welcome back to the channel. It's your boy Fanon, and in this video, we're going to be in the 147-pound division, updating you guys on the Errol Spence Jr. versus Terence Crawford fight. Terence Crawford's guy, Bernie the Boxer, took to Twitter again yesterday, delivered some news, and let me tell you before I get into that, look, I told you so. If some of you guys in the comment section, and I'm much support and love to everybody that supports the channel, would just listen a little bit more carefully to people, and not necessarily just jump out there with a bunch of conclusions about what is going to happen in the fight. It'd be a lot easier for everybody. But before I get into the details of it, let me welcome you back to the channel. If you are a longtime subscriber and supporter, if you are new to the channel, please accept my invitation to hit that subscribe button, hit that bell icon so you can be notified of when we release more videos. All right, so let's get into this. Last week, there was a report that came out from Mike Coppinger about the fight between Errol Spence Jr. and Terence Crawford pretty much being done, said things like that the fight was being targeted for November 19th, that Terence Crawford had acquiesced to all of the financial demands of Errol Spence Jr., that there was a bilateral rematch clause, and that in the second fight, that the lion's share of the revenue would be going to the winner of the first fight. Bernie the Boxer, who is in the camp of Terence Crawford and who specifically said that he was speaking on behalf of Terence Crawford and was allowed to say what he was going to say because Terence Crawford had approved it, went on to say that a couple things that contradicted what Mike Coppinger said, but in large part supported what Mike Coppinger's assertion that the fight was coming. So what was it? What he said was that, number one, the things that contradicted was he said, number one, Terence Crawford had signed his portion of the contract. Number two, he said that Errol Spence Jr. Errol Spence Jr. was going to get the majority of the money during the first part, but during the second half of the fight, the second fight, that Errol Spence Jr. would still get the lion's share of the fight, of the revenue for the fight, even if Terence Crawford had won the fight, right? So now Bernie comes and cleans up a very, very obvious misspeaking. Anybody continued to do it, though, right, throughout the video, which tells you what I told you in my previous video is correct. Number one, Terence Crawford has not signed his agreement to fight Errol Spence Jr., so people can just put a plug in that. And it was obvious that that's not the case for several reasons. And it's not rocket science. It doesn't take inside information. It doesn't take any of that stuff to understand for you to understand that if the fight has not been finalized, right? As in, if Mike Coppinger is saying it's true that their lawyers are reviewing it and they are going over details, and there's different things that still have to be worked out, that there would be no reason for Terence Crawford to sign his agreement. And if you read the report by Mike Coppinger closely enough, you realize that Mike Coppinger really didn't say much at all in that particular new breaking news that he had, because all of it was a bunch of qualified stuff. The only thing that you knew for sure that did not come behind sources say, right? The only thing that he was reporting for sure was that the parties were still in negotiation. That's it. that they were still in negotiation. That's it. That's the only thing that he said in that whole thing that was really like, yeah. And he gave a solid fact, in that Al Haymon's lawyer's name was Jeffrey Spritz. Jeffrey Spitz or Spritz, can't remember the name, and that he was reviewing the documents. Now, I say that's a solid fact without having checked to see whether or not Mr. Spritz actually works for Al Haymon or not. Can't tell you if what he's telling is true or not because I haven't checked that out. However, now, in this particular thing that Terence Crawford's team let out yesterday, though, I got to tell you, man, I don't know what's going on with these guys, man, because listening to what he was saying, it was like, yeah, the deal's almost done. The deal's almost done. We're right there. Terence Crawford acquiesced to everything. What else do you want from him? Well, if he acquiesced to everything that they asked, they're not going to want anything else from him. It's almost like he's claiming that they ask that Errol Spence Jr.'s team he asked for one thing, Terence Crawford says yes, and then they come back and they ask for something else, and Terence Crawford says yes, and then they ask for something else, and then Terence Crawford keeps just saying yes, and he says yes no matter what, all the way to the end, and they just keep coming up with more things. My problem with that is, dude, there's a finite list of things that they can ask for. If you're saying that he wants to walk out first, right? He wants the ring size that he wants. He wants the lion's share of the revenue. I still have a hard time believing why it would take these guys 4 or 5 months to get all the way to the end to that. Right now, here's the thing also. Mike Coppinger said that Terence Crawford had agreed to all non-material terms. And I repeat, I do not know what that means and how one party can say that they've agreed to all material terms when the other party may say, no, all of these are material to me. What's important to you is not necessarily important to him. You can find things, and actually that's a way in a lot of agreements that people really do find hidden value by looking at things that are important to one party that may not be that important to the other, and so you can give and take and actually create value for people when you get imaginative in it, or you get creative, not imaginative, when you get creative in your negotiations and you say, okay, well, maybe there's this one thing that you really don't care about that you really don't care about that's not that important to me, and I'll give you that, right? Where you can make some concessions to things that are more important to me, right? So for example, and this is the thing that gets me, it still blows my mind, that they're still saying that they're not getting any guarantee, like no upfront guarantee in the first fight, no upfront guarantee in the second fight. That to me just sounds like, it just doesn't sound realistic, right? And at the same time that Bernie is saying this, he's also admitting on certain of those partners, I don't know the exact details. So maybe I just don't know if Terence Crawford is kind of playing a game or what, but it just doesn't make sense that they would ask, like they would give this man no leeway for anything. To me, it sounds like you're kind of setting it up to make it look like if the fight doesn't happen, then it's Errol Spence Jr.'s fault because Terence Crawford literally gave in to everything, and they still turned down the fight. That just does not seem to be the MO with Errol Spence Jr. or the MO with Al Haymon, where they're just going to keep going. First of all, go months and months and months, and where Errol doesn't get to set up another fight just to eventually just try not to make the fight because they just don't want it. My personal thing is that they probably just think that the fight's not that big, is not as big as some people think, and it's tied up on something related to the money, right? But and also, Bernie the Boxer said, look, man, and Terence is really on the money. He wants to know where all the revenue streams are from. So a whole lot of that stuff just to me was very contradictory. But anyway, man, at the very least, we know there ain't nobody signed anything. If this fight does get done for November, it's because these guys are negotiating, and eventually they come to an agreement, and they push for the fight, right, and get the fight done. But at this point in time, man, we are September. We are almost in October, right? we're 9 days away from October, or 10 days away from October. So we'll see. Anyway, that's my take on the matter. You let me know what you think in the comment section. And with that, I'm out.